A doctor sat in a Boston diner, pen in hand, about to sign papers that would close her health center forever. 15,000 families would lose their only doctor. 120 people would lose their jobs. 19 years of saving lives gone. Everyone told her it was over. Her lawyers, her accountants, even her own husband. But then something impossible happened. A diner cook, a man who flips eggs for $7 an hour, looked at her papers and saw something nobody else saw. Something that would change both their lives forever. What he found will bring you to tears. What he sacrificed will break your heart. And what happened next, you won't believe it. I'm begging you, don't click away. Because this story will make you see every stranger differently. It might even save your life one day. Watch till the very end. Trust me. Welcome to Reality Untold Stories. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you're watching from. Section 1. The Breaking Point, 1,000 words. Let me tell you about a day that proves miracles still happen. Not the kind with angels and bright lights, but the quiet kind. The kind that happens when one person decides to care about a stranger. This is a story about rock bottom, about courage, and about how sometimes the person who saves you is the one you'd never expect. It's a cold Tuesday morning in downtown Boston. Inside a small diner on Maple Street, a woman sits alone in a corner booth. Her name is Victoria Hayes, and in exactly 10 minutes, she's about to throw away everything she's ever built. Look at her sitting there. 47 years old, wearing a designer suit that doesn't fit quite right anymore. She's lost weight. Too much weight. The kind you lose when you forget to eat because your whole world is falling apart. Her hands rest on a stack of papers. Legal documents. The kind that end dreams. For 19 years, Victoria ran something special. Hayes Community Health Center. She started it with nothing but a dream and a small bank loan. Just her, one nurse, and a tiny office in a poor neighborhood. Now, her center served 15,000 families across Massachusetts. Free checkups for kids. Mental health counseling. Diabetes management. Help for elderly folks who couldn't afford their medications. Real help. The kind that saved lives. But today, all of that ends. The papers in front of her say it clearly. Closure. Chapter 11. Dissolve all assets. Her health center will be shut down, sold off piece by piece to pay the debts. 15,000 families will lose their only source of healthcare. Victoria checks her phone. 8:50 a.m. Her lawyer is coming at 9 o'clock. 10 minutes. That's all she has left before her signature makes it official. Before Victoria Hayes becomes the woman who failed everyone who counted on her. She picks up the pen. It's just a regular blue pen, nothing fancy. But her hand is shaking so badly she can barely hold it. Not from nervousness. She's past that. This is something deeper. Her body knows what her mind won't admit. That signing these papers feels like cutting out her own heart. The diner is filling up with the breakfast crowd. Construction workers ordering eggs and bacon. Office workers grabbing coffee to go. A young mother feeding her toddler pancakes. Normal people having normal mornings while Victoria's entire world crumbles. She's been coming to this diner for 8 years. Same corner booth every Tuesday morning. Same black coffee and wheat toast. This place has seen everything. It saw her celebrate when they opened their 3rd clinic. Saw her plan community outreach programs on napkins. Saw her grow from a nervous young doctor with big dreams into someone the community trusted. Now it's watching her die inside. Victoria picks up the pen again. When did she last sleep? Really sleep? Not that nightmare-filled, half-conscious state where you keep seeing the faces of all the people you're about to let down. 2 weeks? 3? She can't remember anymore. Her husband left 6 months ago. Richard took their twin boys, Jake and Noah, with him. Said he couldn't watch her sacrifice everything for strangers while ignoring her own family. Said she cared more about her patients than her sons. Maybe he was right. She missed Jake's school play because of a crisis at the clinic. Missed Noah's soccer championship. Missed family dinners and weekend trips and all those moments you can never get back. Her phone sits silent on the table. No calls from Richard. No texts from the boys. Her board of directors resigned 3 months ago. The bank foreclosed on 2 of her clinics last month. Other healthcare companies are already calling, offering pennies on the dollar for her equipment. Everyone says it's over. Her accountant said it. Her lawyer said it. The numbers scream it. Victoria Hayes is finished. So why can't she sign? Her hand moves toward the paper. This time it reaches the signature line. The pen touches the page. Just write your name, she thinks. End this nightmare. Stop dragging it out. Excuse me, miss? The voice comes from beside her table. Rough around the edges. Working class accent. Victoria doesn't look up. I'm busy, she says, even though she's not. She's just sitting here paralyzed, trapped between who she used to be and whoever she's about to become. I know, and I really hate to bother you. The voice comes closer. But I think you're about to make a huge mistake. That makes her look up. He's probably 60, maybe 65. Wearing the diner's white apron stained with coffee and grease. A name tag says Frank. He has weathered hands and kind eyes. The kind of eyes that have seen hard times. He's holding a coffee pot, but he's not offering a refill. He's looking at her papers. Excuse me? Victoria's voice comes out sharp. It's the voice of someone who's been kicked so many times that even kindness feels like another trick. Frank doesn't back away. He sets the coffee pot down on her table, right next to the legal documents. Those papers. I saw them when I was cleaning your table earlier. Wasn't trying to be nosy, I swear. But those numbers, they don't add up right. Victoria almost laughs. Would laugh if she had any laughter left. You're a waiter. Cook, actually, Frank says with no shame. Just fact. But I used to be an accountant before. He stops. Something heavy crosses his face. Something painful. Then he straightens up. Before my life took a different turn. Can I look? Just for a minute. She should say no. Should tell him to mind his own business. Go back to flipping eggs and leave her alone with her failure. This is her disaster, not entertainment for strangers. But something in his voice stops her. That quiet confidence. That look in his eyes that says he's not asking because he feels sorry for her. He's asking because he actually thinks he can help. And God knows, Victoria is desperate enough to let him try. You have 5 minutes, she says, sliding the papers across the table. Then my lawyer gets here, and this becomes real. Frank wipes his hands on his apron and sits down. He pulls the papers close. His eyes start moving fast, scanning the columns of numbers and legal language that took Victoria's lawyers months to prepare. She watches his face, waiting for the moment he realizes he's in over his head. Waiting for the embarrassed shrug, the apology, the quick exit back to the kitchen. But Frank's expression changes. His eyes narrow. His finger stops on something near the middle of the second page.
Hold on, he says.
This makes no sense at all. And just like that, with 8 minutes left before everything ends, Victoria Hayes feels something she thought was gone forever. Hope Frank's finger moves down the page like he's solving a puzzle only he can see. Victoria watches him, her heart beating faster now. Beating like it remembers what it feels like to want something. This building assessment, Frank says, tapping the paper. Your main clinic on Webster Avenue. They've got it listed twice. Once here under medical facilities. And again here under real estate holdings. Same building, same address, but they're counting it as 2 separate debts. Victoria leans forward. The diner noise fades away. The clinking of silverware, the coffee machine hissing, the conversations at other tables. All gone. All she can hear is Frank's voice and her own heartbeat. What? Look here. Frank turns the paper so she can see. The address is identical. 847 Webster Avenue. But in this column, they say you owe $1.9 million on it. And in this column, they say you owe another $1.9 million. That's the same mortgage counted twice. That's $1.9 million in debt that doesn't exist. Victoria's mind starts racing. The Webster Clinic. She bought that building 12 years ago. Converted an old factory into a modern health center. The loan was complicated, split between a traditional mortgage and a special healthcare development grant. 2 different payment structures, 2 different lenders. but one building. Her lawyers gathered documents from everywhere. Nobody checked if they were double counting. That's not the only problem, Frank says. He's flipping pages now. His movements are quick and certain, not hesitant anymore. This is someone who knows exactly what he's looking at. Your projected income for this year. They're using numbers from 2 years ago. But didn't you just get approved for that state grant? The one for rural healthcare expansion. Victoria feels her chest tighten.
Yes.
We got approved 4 months ago. 2.7 million over 3 years. Then these projections are totally wrong, Frank says. They're saying your center will bring in 4 million this year. But with the grant, it should be closer to 6.7 million. That changes everything about whether you can actually pay what you owe. He keeps reading. Victoria watches his face. Something is happening inside her chest. Something breaking open. Not breaking apart. Breaking open like a frozen river when spring finally arrives. And this, Frank points to another section. This medical equipment loan. Says you still owe $360,000 on your MRI machine and X-ray equipment. But didn't you pay that off? We did, Victoria says. Her voice is getting stronger now, steadier. 14 months ago. Our financial director, Sarah, she retired right after that. The new person must not have updated the files. Frank looks up from the papers. His eyes meet hers. And for the first time all morning, Victoria feels like someone actually sees her. Not her failures. Not her mistakes. Just her. A woman trying to decide if she should keep fighting or finally let go. If these numbers are wrong, Frank says carefully, then everything changes. You might not need to close at all. You might just need to restructure. Work out new payment plans with your lenders. But closing? That's like demolishing a house that just needs some repairs. The words hit Victoria like a wave. Not closure. Not the end. Just repairs.
Who are you? She asks.
It comes out almost like an accusation, but she means it like a prayer. Frank looks down at his weathered hands. Hands that should be holding financial reports instead of spatulas and dish towels. Someone who made a big mistake with numbers once. Lost everything because of it. I don't want to see someone else lose everything if maybe they don't have to. Before Victoria can respond, the diner door opens. Her lawyer walks in. Monica Chun, carrying her leather briefcase and wearing the same serious expression she's worn for weeks. Behind her is someone Victoria didn't expect to see. Richard. Her ex-husband. Well, almost ex-husband. The divorce isn't final yet. He's dressed in his usual business casual, looking like he just came from his office at the bank. His face is unreadable. Victoria, Monica says, her voice professional and measured. It's time. Richard doesn't say anything. He just stands there with his arms crossed, looking at her with eyes that used to look at her with love. Now they just look tired, disappointed, like he's here to witness the final proof that he was right to leave. Victoria glances at Frank. He's gathering the papers together, like he's trying to disappear. Wait, Victoria says. She stands up. For the first time in months, she feels her spine straighten. Feels herself stand tall. Monica, we need to review these documents again. There are serious errors. Monica frowns. Victoria, we've been through everything 3 times. It's thorough. Then we go through it a 4th time, Victoria says. Her voice isn't the voice of a defeated woman anymore. It's the voice of the doctor who built 3 clinics from nothing. The voice of someone who knows how to fight. There are duplicate entries. Outdated projections. Missing information. I'm not signing anything until every single number is verified. Richard makes a disgusted sound. This is ridiculous, Victoria. You're just delaying the inevitable. Sign the papers and let everyone move forward. But Victoria isn't looking at him anymore. She's looking at Frank, who has stood up from the booth and is stepping back like his job is done. Thank you, Victoria says to him. Frank nods once, then starts walking toward the kitchen. Wait, sir, Monica calls out. What's your name? Frank, he says quietly. Frank Morrison. Monica looks at Victoria, then at the papers on the table, then back at Frank. Did you find these errors? He hesitates, then nods. Monica Chun is a sharp lawyer. She's been practicing for 23 years. She walks over to the table and picks up the documents. Her eyes scan the pages Frank marked. Her expression shifts. Just slightly, but Victoria sees it. "Where did you work before?" Monica asks Frank. "Sterling and Associates," Frank says. "I was a senior accountant for 12 years before."
He stops.
That shadow crosses his face again. "Before I made a mistake that cost my firm a major client. I was fired. Couldn't get hired anywhere else in accounting." Monica studies him for a long moment. Then she looks at Victoria. "He's right," Monica says quietly. "These numbers need to be rechecked immediately. If what he's showing me is accurate, this entire filing could be wrong." Richard makes a sound like he's been slapped. "You cannot be serious. You're listening to a diner cook instead of trained lawyers." "I'm listening to someone who actually looked closely at the numbers," Victoria shoots back. She feels something rising in her chest. Not the helpless anger she's carried for months. This is different. This is fire. This is life. "I'm listening to someone who cared enough to speak up when everyone else just kept telling me to quit." She turns to her lawyer. "Monica, I want every document audited today. Every number double-checked. Every calculation verified. I want the truth." Monica nods slowly. "I'll make calls. But Victoria, if this doesn't lead anywhere—" "If it doesn't lead anywhere, I'll sign the papers tonight," Victoria says. "But I'm not signing them now. Not until I know we got it right." Richard grabs his coat. His face is red with frustration and something else. Embarrassment, maybe. "You're delusional. Both of you." He heads for the door, then turns back. "When this falls apart, Victoria, don't call me crying. Don't show up at the house. We're done. We were done the moment you chose those strangers over your own sons." He leaves. The door swings shut with a sharp sound that feels too loud. The diner goes quiet. Other customers are trying not to stare, but Victoria can feel their eyes. The woman having a breakdown at the corner booth. Better than reality TV, with their morning pancakes. Monica gathers the documents and promises to have answers by 2 o'clock. Then she leaves too, disappearing into the Boston morning with Victoria's life in her briefcase. And then it's just Victoria and Frank again. "I don't know how to thank you," Victoria says. Her voice cracks.
She's exhausted.
So tired she feels like she could sleep for a week. But underneath the exhaustion is something else. Something that feels dangerously like hope. Frank shakes his head. "Don't thank me yet. I might be wrong." "You're not wrong," Victoria says. She doesn't know how she knows, but she does. Deep in her soul, she knows. "Why did you help me?" Frank looks down at his hands. "Because someone should have double-checked my work before I submitted it. Someone should have caught my error before it destroyed everything. Nobody did. So, I guess I wanted to be that person for someone else." Victoria feels something crack open in her chest. "What was your mistake?" Frank smiles, but there's no joy in it. "I trusted the wrong person. My boss at Sterling and Associates was embezzling from clients. Cooking the books. He had me process transactions, told me they were legitimate. I believed him, because he was a partner. Why wouldn't I?" He takes a breath. The diner is busy now. The lunch crowd's starting to trickle in. People ordering burgers and soup, completely unaware that something important just happened in the corner booth. "When the clients discovered their money was missing, my boss blamed me," Frank continues. "Said I made the errors. That I was incompetent. That I'd falsified everything. I tried to fight it. Hired a lawyer, tried to prove what really happened. But I was 43, and he was a senior partner with connections. Nobody believed me." "They fired you," Victoria says. "They fired me," Frank confirms. "Then they made sure no accounting firm would touch me. Blacklisted across the industry. Every application rejected. Every interview went nowhere. I had a mortgage, 2 kids in college. So I took the first job I could find that would keep food on the table. Been cooking eggs and flipping burgers for 17 years now." Victoria feels anger flash through her. Not at Frank. For him. For this man who lost everything because of someone else's crime and then got brave enough to help a stranger anyway. "That's not right," she says. Frank shrugs. "Maybe not. but it's what happened. And honestly, I'd made peace with it. Told myself, maybe I wasn't meant for that world. Maybe I wasn't good enough or smart enough or whatever it takes. You caught errors that professional lawyers missed, Victoria says. You looked at documents for 5 minutes and found mistakes that could have destroyed everything I built. That's not someone who isn't good enough. That's someone who's exceptional. Frank's eyes get shiny. He blinks hard, pushing the emotion back. I should get back to the kitchen. Lunch rush is starting. Frank, Victoria says. He stops. If this works out, if you're right about those numbers, I'm going to need help getting my finances organized properly. I need someone I can trust. Someone who pays attention to details. Someone brave enough to tell me when something's wrong. I flip burgers now, Frank says softly. That's all I do. That's not all you do, Victoria says. And I think you know that. Frank stands there for a long moment. Around them, the diner hums with life. Someone laughs at the counter. The grill sizzles. The cash register dings. Then Frank walks away. Back to the kitchen. Back to his spatula and grill and the life he built from the ashes of his old one. Victoria sits back down. The pen is still there on the table, waiting. But she doesn't pick it up. Instead, she pulls out her phone and starts making calls. To her accountant. To the board members who resigned. To her remaining staff. To anyone who might help verify what Frank found. Because for the first time in months, Victoria Hayes has something she thought was lost forever.
She has a reason to fight.
She has hope. And she has 5 hours until 2 o'clock. 5 hours to find out if Frank saved her life's work or if this is just one final cruel tease before everything crashes down anyway. But either way, she's going to fight. Because someone cared enough to give her a reason to. And that changes everything. The diner owner, Maria, appears at her table with a fresh pot of coffee. On the house, she says with a knowing smile. Looks like you're going to need it. Victoria smiles back. The first real smile in months.
Yeah, she says.
I think I am. By 1:30 in the afternoon, something remarkable is happening in the small office behind the diner kitchen. Maria, who's owned this place for 22 years, offered her cramped office when she saw what was going on. Now that tiny room with its old desk and filing cabinets is packed with people. Monica Chun, the lawyer. 2 financial auditors Monica brought in as emergency consultants. Sarah Patel, Victoria's former financial director who came out of retirement for one afternoon. And Frank, who Maria pulled from the kitchen despite the lunch crowd. Frank has changed out of his cook's apron. He's wearing clean jeans and a button-down shirt. Probably the nicest outfit he owns for situations like this. He looks uncomfortable surrounded by all these people in business clothes. But when Monica asks him to explain what he found, his voice is calm and clear. The Webster Avenue Clinic was listed twice because it's registered under 2 different tax entities for grant purposes, Frank says, pointing to documents spread across Maria's desk. But the closure filing treated them as separate properties with separate debts. In reality, the debt is shared and should only be counted once. That's $1.9 million in duplicate debt. One of the auditors, a sharp-eyed man named James, leans forward. That's a major error. How did this get through multiple legal reviews? Monica looks uncomfortable. The paperwork came from 3 different law firms handling different aspects of Victoria's organization. Nobody cross-referenced between them. Someone should have, James says bluntly. He turns to Frank. What else did you find? Frank walks them through everything. 8 errors in total. Some small, some massive. Income projections using ancient data. Asset valuations that ignored recent improvements. That medical equipment loan showing as unpaid when it had been settled over a year ago. And the big one. The state grant worth $2.7 million that wasn't included anywhere in the financial projections. By the time Frank finishes, the room is dead silent. The kind of silence that feels thick and heavy. James closes his laptop. He looks at Monica. These documents aren't just wrong. They're catastrophically wrong. If Victoria had signed this morning, she would have closed a financially viable organization. That would have triggered asset seizures, destroyed her credit permanently, and created legal nightmares that might never be resolved. Victoria feels her stomach flip. She had been 10 minutes away from destroying everything. 10 minutes from a mistake that couldn't be undone. So what happens now? She asks. Her voice comes out quieter than she intends. James stands up. Now you withdraw the closure filing. You restructure your debt based on accurate numbers. You negotiate with your lenders properly. And honestly, you should consider legal action for professional negligence. This level of error is inexcusable. Monica winces. That would be against my firm. Then I suggest you fix this, James says. He shakes Victoria's hand, nods respectfully to Frank, and leaves. The room slowly empties. Sarah promises to send corrected financial statements by tomorrow morning. The other auditor leaves with document copies, saying he'll prepare a complete report by Friday. Soon it's just Victoria, Monica, and Frank. Monica looks like she's aged a decade in 6 hours. I'm so sorry, Victoria. This should never have happened. My associates should have been more thorough. I should have been more thorough. This is on me. Victoria should be furious. Part of her is. But mostly she just feels exhausted and relieved and grateful and terrified all at once. Get me a proper restructuring plan, she says. An accurate one. I want it by Monday. Monica nods. Before she leaves, she turns to Frank. If you ever want to return to accounting, call me. My firm could use someone who actually reads what they're reviewing. Frank gives her a small smile, but says nothing. Monica leaves. Then it's just the two of them in Maria's cramped office with its coffee-stained desk and outdated calendar on the wall. You saved everything today, Victoria says. Frank shakes his head. I just read some paperwork. You did more than that, Victoria says. She sits down heavily in Maria's desk chair. The adrenaline that carried her through the day is fading. Exhaustion is flooding back in. You gave me a reason to fight when I'd already surrendered. Do you understand how rare that is? How precious? Frank sits down in the other chair. He looks different now. Professional. Capable. Like he belongs in a boardroom instead of a diner kitchen. Why did you give up? He asks. From what I saw, your health center was struggling, but it wasn't dying. People don't usually close down when there's still hope. Victoria laughs, but there's no humor in it. Because everyone told me it was over. My lawyers. My accountants. My board members. My husband. After a while, you start believing them. You start thinking maybe they see something you don't. Maybe you're the only one too stubborn or too blind to accept reality. Or maybe they were all too close to see clearly, Frank says. Sometimes it takes an outsider to notice what everyone else missed. Is that what happened to you? Victoria asks. With your job? Frank is quiet for a long moment. Through the door, they can hear the diner sounds. Orders being called out. Dishes clattering. Maria's voice rising above it all. I was working on a huge corporate account, Frank says finally. My boss gave me transactions to process. I trusted him because he was my supervisor. Why wouldn't I? Turned out he'd been stealing from the client for 2 years, using me to cover his tracks. When everything exploded, he blamed me, said I'd made all the errors. I was fired. He kept his position for another year before they finally caught him. Victoria feels anger burn in her chest. Not at Frank. For him. Did you fight it? I tried, Frank says. But I was middle-aged and he had powerful friends. Nobody believed me. After that, nobody in accounting would hire me. So I learned to cook because bills don't pay themselves. And I told myself it was okay. That maybe I wasn't cut out for that world anyway. That's not true, Victoria says. Maybe not, Frank says. But it's what I believed for 17 years. The afternoon sun is streaming through Maria's office window when Victoria finally asks the question that's been growing all day. Come work for me. Frank looks up. What? Come work for Hayes Community Health Center, Victoria says. I need someone to oversee our finances. Someone who can review documents and catch problems before they become disasters. Someone I can trust completely. I think that's you. Frank shakes his head. Dr. Hayes. Victoria, she interrupts. Victoria, he says softly. I appreciate it. Really. But I haven't worked in accounting in 17 years. I don't have updated certifications. I don't have references. And honestly, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Last time I trusted my judgment in that field, I lost everything. And today your judgment saved everything, Victoria says. Frank, I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm asking you to do what you did this morning. Pay attention. Ask questions. Speak up when something looks wrong. That's all I need.
He's quiet for a long time.
Victoria doesn't push. She just waits, giving him space to think. Can I ask you something? Frank says finally. Anything. Why did your husband really leave? The question catches Victoria off guard. She expected questions about salary or responsibilities. Not this. Because I stopped being present, Victoria says honestly. I got so obsessed with saving the health center that I forgot about my own family. Richard said I was drowning and too proud to accept his help. He was right. I miss my son's childhoods for emergency board meetings and fundraising events. Do you think he'll come back? Frank asks. Now that things might work out? Victoria thinks about Richard's face in the diner this morning. The coldness. The finality.
No, she says.
And maybe that's how it should be. Maybe some things can't be saved. But the health center? That's different.
That's not just about me.
It's about 15,000 families who depend on us. The children who get their vaccines there. The diabetics who get their insulin. The elderly folks who get their heart medications. If I let it close because I was too tired to fight, I could never forgive myself. Frank nods slowly. I'm scared, he admits. Of what? Of failing again. Of trusting my instincts and being wrong. Of having people look at me the way they did before. Like I'm incompetent. Like I'm a fraud. Victoria leans forward. Frank, let me tell you what I see. I see someone who risked embarrassment to help a complete stranger. Someone who spoke up even though he had nothing to gain. Someone brave enough to walk into a room full of lawyers and auditors and tell them they were all wrong. That's not incompetent. That's not a fraud. That's exactly who I want on my team. Tears shine in Frank's eyes. He doesn't wipe them away. What if I mess up? Then we fix it together, Victoria says. That's what teams do. Nobody has to face things alone. Not anymore. Not after today. Frank laughs, but it's a real laugh this time. Not bitter. Not sad.
Real.
Okay, he says.
All right.
I'll try. I'll come work for you. But if I make mistakes. You won't, Victoria says. And if you do, we'll handle it. That's what second chances are for. They walk out of Maria's office together. The diner is in full afternoon mode now. High school students doing homework. Elderly couples having late lunch. Young parents with restless toddlers. All the beautiful chaos of regular life. Maria is behind the counter. When she sees them, she grins. Everything work out? Yeah, Victoria says, and she feels herself smile. A real smile. Yeah, it really did. Maria looks at Frank. You leaving me, Frank? Frank looks genuinely pained. Maria, I'm so sorry. I know the timing is awful. Maria waves him off. Don't be ridiculous. I've been watching you cook eggs for 17 years, knowing you were meant for something bigger. Go do it. And you better come visit. Frank hugs her. Every week. I promise. Victoria and Frank walk out into the Boston afternoon. The cold air feels clean and fresh. The city is alive and moving, full of people with their own struggles and dreams and second chances. I need to call my sons, Victoria says suddenly. I haven't talked to Jake and Noah in 2 weeks. I need to hear their voices. You should, Frank says. Family matters. Don't forget that this time. I won't, Victoria promises. And she means it with everything in her. They stand there on the sidewalk. These two people who were strangers at sunrise and are something else now. Not quite friends yet. Not quite co-workers. Something in between. Two people who saved each other without planning to. Thank you, Victoria says. Thank you, Frank says back. For giving me another shot. For believing in me when I'd stopped believing in myself. Victoria's phone rings. It's Monica with preliminary numbers from the auditors. Good numbers. Numbers that mean Hayes Community Health Center will survive. Will restructure. Will keep serving those 15,000 families who need it. As Victoria answers the call, Frank starts walking toward the train station. But he's walking differently now. His shoulders are back. His head is high. He looks like someone who remembers who he used to be, who he can be again. And somewhere in that moment, on that ordinary Boston street, two lives change direction. Not because of luck. Not because of fate. But because one person cared enough to speak up and another person was brave enough to listen. Sometimes that's all it takes. Someone who sees you when you're invisible. Someone who believes in you when you've stopped believing in yourself. Someone who says, "Wait, you're making a mistake," when everyone else says just give up. That morning, Victoria Hayes thought her story was ending. Turns out it was just beginning. And so was Frank's. Both of them getting a second chance. Both of them learning that sometimes the most important moment in life isn't when you sign the papers that end everything. Sometimes the most important moment is when someone stops you just before you do. And sometimes the person who saves you is the last person you'd ever expect.